The imperial consort was surprised to discover the newly arrived palace lady was dressed shabbily, but the maidservant was instead wearing luxurious garments. The palace lady explained she was born from a concubine. Her legitimate mother deliberately made her dress this way to help her avoid the emperor's favor. Actually, this was all part of the palace lady's meticulous plan. She had long since swapped clothes with her maidservant on the way to the palace in order to enter the palace inconspicuously. It turned out the girl was a person who had been reborn. In her previous life, she had married the current prime minister, but was assassinated by her legitimate sister during an audience with the emperor, all because her legitimate sister, who had been banished to the cold palace, was jealous of her comfortable life. The legitimate sister who committed the murder on the spot also lost her own life. Who would have thought fate would give a chance to start over? The girl returned to the day before her marriage. At this time, her father was worried about the marriage because an impoverished family had come to propose. He couldn't bear for his legitimate daughter to suffer and planned to have the concubine-born daughter marry into that family. Just at this moment, the legitimate sister suddenly appeared, voluntarily requesting to marry the poor man. The girl immediately understood the legitimate sister had also been reborn, because in the previous life the legitimate sister detested this marriage the most, but now she was fighting to marry him. Seeing the legitimate daughter insist on marrying into a poor family, the parents had no choice but to reluctantly agree. The legitimate sister was still smugly thinking she had chosen the right man, because in her previous life she had been neglected by the emperor, then was oppressed and died miserably at the hands of the other consorts. Little did she know, after the girl entered the palace, it was a completely different fate. That night the legitimate sister even specifically reminded her concubine-born sister, saying the emperor liked green dresses the most, telling her sister to definitely wear green when being selected. The girl immediately sensed something was off. How could the legitimate sister possibly be so kind? In the blink of an eye, it was the day the legitimate sister was to be married off. The groom came to fetch the bride in an OX cart, utterly humiliating the entire family. But the legitimate sister had a face full of complacency, saying her future husband was sure to become prime minister. When the news reached the girl's ears, she only gave a faint smile. Little did they know, in the previous life it was entirely thanks to her support the poor scholar was able to become prime minister. Soon it was the day for the girl to enter the palace to be selected. The imperial consort indeed sent people to intercept the palace ladies wearing green dresses. As soon as they were discovered, they received a vicious beating. In the previous life, the legitimate sister had offended the imperial consort this way. In the end, she met a miserable death in the cold palace. Just as the imperial consort's maidservant was searching the carriage, they indeed caught someone wearing a green dress. But when they lifted the curtain, they discovered it was the maidservant. The real palace lady was wearing coarse clothing. The girl explained she was a concubine-born daughter in the family. Her legitimate mother deliberately made her dress shabbily to avoid the emperor's favor. Only then did the imperial consort let them pass. But the imperial consort's personal maidservant had murderous intent. She felt this young lady was too beautiful and would definitely be a threat in the future. The imperial consort listened and indeed felt it made sense. So she had the maidservant bring over a cup of tea. The girl saw with one glance this tea was drugged. She was just about to decline. However, a thirsty palace lady happened to pass by, picked up the teacup and downed it in one gulp. Then the maidservant used the imperial consort's name to pressure, forcing the girl to drink the tea. Crisis descended once again.